Most dads worry about peanut allergies in their kids' lunch. I get the war on drugs special. It started when I grabbed the wrong lunchbox at work. Mine was plain black, but somehow I'd picked up Janie's pink unicorn one from the kitchen counter that morning. I was about to toss it back in my truck when my coworker Sam noticed me holding it. "Jason, let me see that," Sam said, his voice suddenly sharp. Sam used to be an ER doctor before he switched to project management. When he gets that tone, you listen. I handed him the lunchbox. He opened it and his face went white. "You need to get your daughter to the hospital, now." "What? Why?" Sam held up a small plastic bag that had been tucked under Janie's sandwich. White pills scattered across his palm. "These are Rohypnol, roofies. Someone put enough sedatives in here to knock out a grown man." My blood turned to ice. "That's impossible. Jason, if your 10-year-old had eaten her lunch today, she'd be unconscious right now. Maybe worse." I was already running to my truck, Sam behind me. 20 minutes later, I was pulling Janie out of her 5th-grade classroom, trying to stay calm while my world collapsed. "Dad, what's wrong?" Janie asked as I buckled her into the passenger seat. "Just need to make sure you're okay, sweetheart. Did you eat your lunch today?" "No, I forgot it at home. I bought pizza instead. Thank God for school cafeteria pizza." The ER was a nightmare of fluorescent lights and concerned faces. Nurses drew blood, doctors asked questions, and I sat there trying to figure out how someone had drugged my daughter's lunch. The police showed up, asking if I had enemies, if anyone had access to our house. That's when Laura stormed in. "What the hell did you do to our daughter?" she screamed, her perfectly styled blonde hair wild, her HR executive composure completely gone. "Laura, someone put drugs in Janie's lunch. She's fine, but—" "Don't you dare try to blame someone else for your negligence. You packed that lunch." Officer Martinez looked between us. "Ma'am, we're still investigating." "He's been acting strange lately," Laura continued, pointing at me like I was a criminal. "Paranoid, jealous, making wild accusations about me." I stared at my wife of 15 years. The woman who used to laugh at my jokes, who cried when I proposed, who held my hand through my father's funeral. Now she was throwing me under the bus in front of cops and doctors. "Laura, why would I drug our own daughter?" "I don't know, Jason. Why would you do half the crazy things you've been doing lately?" Sam stepped forward. "Excuse me, but I was there when Jason found the drugs. He had no idea they were in the lunchbox. His reaction was genuine shock." Laura turned her venom on Sam. "And who are you exactly?" "Dr. Samuel Chen, Jason's co-worker, former emergency physician." The irony wasn't lost on me that Sam had one of those forbidden names from bad fiction, but this was all too real. Officer Martinez took notes while Laura continued her performance. I watched her carefully, noting things I'd been blind to for months. The way she avoided eye contact with me, how she kept checking her phone even during this crisis. The expensive new jewelry I hadn't seen before. "Mrs. Fairburn will need to examine your home," the officer said. "Someone had access to your kitchen this morning." "Of course," Laura said quickly. "We'll cooperate fully." But I caught the flash of panic in her eyes. 2 hours later, we were home. Janie was safe, just shaken up. Beth, our 14-year-old, was locked in her room, probably posting about the drama on TikTok. Laura disappeared into our bedroom, claiming she needed to process what happened. I sat in my living room, looking around at the house I'd worked overtime to afford. Everything seemed normal. Family photos on the mantel, Laura's work papers scattered on the dining table, the girls' backpacks by the front door. But something was wrong. Someone had tried to hurt my daughter, and my wife's first instinct was to blame me. I walked to the kitchen and opened the refrigerator. Laura's leftover Thai food from last night, Beth's energy drinks, Janie's juice boxes, normal family stuff. Then I noticed the iPad on the counter, the family one we all shared. It was still logged into Laura's iCloud account. Messages were syncing automatically. I almost didn't look. Should have minded my own business. But after what happened today, I needed answers. The first message thread made my stomach drop. Laura, the plan didn't work. He found the pills before she ate anything. Scott, shit. Are you sure he doesn't suspect us? Laura, he's clueless. I convinced the cops he's been acting paranoid lately. Scott, good. We need him to look unstable for the custody hearing. Laura, don't worry. By the time I'm done, he'll be lucky to get supervised visits. I scrolled up, reading weeks of messages. My wife and some guy named Scott planning to frame me for child abuse, discussing how to make me look dangerous, unstable, unfit, planning to drug my daughter and blame me for it. My hands shook as I screenshotted everything. Then I kept reading. Scott, can't wait to have you all to myself. The girls will adjust. Laura, Jason's so stupid. He hasn't noticed I've been staying late at your place 3 nights a week. Scott, your husband's a loser. Blue-collar project manager married way above his league. Laura, tell me about it. I can't believe I wasted 15 years on him. I set the iPad down carefully, walked to my garage, and threw up in the recycling bin. When I came back inside, Laura was in the kitchen making coffee like nothing had happened. How are you holding up? She asked, not looking at me. Fine, I managed. Just trying to figure out who would want to hurt Janie. Maybe it was random, she said. Some sicko at the school. Maybe. She poured herself coffee, still avoiding eye contact. I'm going to stay at Megan's tonight. I need space to process all this. Megan, her best friend since college. The one who'd been encouraging Laura to stand up for herself and not settle for less for the past year. Sure, I said. Take all the space you need. After she left, I called Sam. I need a favor, I said when he answered. Can you help me figure out who Scott is? The guy from the messages? Already on it. Scott Williams, pharmaceutical sales representative. Lives in the Meridian condos downtown. Divorced. 2 kids he barely sees. How did you... Jason, your wife's been having an affair for 6 months. Half the office knows. I've been waiting for you to figure it out. I sat down hard on my couch. 6 months? Maybe longer. She's been parking at his place 3 nights a week. Someone saw her car there and recognized the license plate. Why didn't anyone tell me? Would you have believed it? He was right. I'd been blind, trusting, stupid. What do I do now? Document everything, save those messages, and Jason, don't confront them yet. If they're willing to drug a 10-year-old to frame you, there's no telling what else they'll do. After I hung up, I sat in my empty house and planned my next move. Laura wanted to play games? Fine. But she'd picked the wrong man to mess with. The next morning, I did something I'd never done in 15 years of marriage. I went through Laura's things. Her dresser drawers revealed new lingerie I'd never seen, tags still attached. Her closet had dresses that cost more than my monthly truck payment. In her jewelry box, I found a diamond bracelet worth at least $5,000. All purchased in the last 3 months, according to the credit card statements I found in her home office. Our joint account showed cash withdrawals I didn't remember making. Hotel charges in downtown Austin when she was supposedly working late. Restaurant bills for 2 at places we'd never been together. My wife had been living a double life, and I'd been paying for it. I photographed everything, then put it all back exactly where I found it. Beth came downstairs around 10, already dressed and made up like she was going to a photo shoot. "Where's Mom?" she asked, not looking up from her phone. "At Aunt Megan's. She needed some space after yesterday." Beth rolled her eyes. "Whatever. This family is so dramatic. I'm going to Madison's house." "Beth, wait." I tried to hug her, but she stepped away. "Dad, you're being weird. Can I go or not?" "Sure, sweetheart." She left without another word. My own daughter, treating me like a stranger. Janie was different. She stayed close, helping me make breakfast, chatting about school and her friends. She seemed to sense that something was wrong, but didn't push for details. "Dad, Are you and Mom getting divorced? She asked while we cleaned up the kitchen. The question hit me like a punch to the gut. Why would you ask that? Madison's parents got divorced last year. She said they stopped talking to each other first, then her dad moved out. You don't need to worry about that, okay? Your mom and I are just working through some stuff. But even as I said it, I knew it was a lie. There was no working through what Laura had done. That afternoon, I drove to Scott Williams' condo complex. The Meridian was all glass and steel, the kind of place that screamed, "I make more money than you." Scott's unit was on the 3rd floor, and Laura's Honda was parked right outside. I sat in my truck and watched for 2 hours. At 4:30, they came out together. Laura was wearing one of those new dresses, laughing at something Scott said. He was tall, tan, probably spent more on hair products than I made in a week. They got into his BMW and drove off, Laura's hand on his thigh. I followed them to an expensive steakhouse downtown. Through the window, I watched them hold hands across the table, sharing dessert, acting like teenagers in love, while my daughter was still recovering from being nearly poisoned. I took pictures with my phone, then drove to Home Depot. Sugar doesn't actually ruin a car's engine, that's a myth. But fish sauce in the air vents will make a BMW smell like a dumpster for months. And a small screwdriver can do amazing things to expensive tires. I left a note under his windshield wiper. Family means everything. Remember that. Then I went home and waited. Laura came back at midnight, reeking of wine and Scott's cologne. How was Megan's? I asked from the couch. Fine, we talked through everything. She thinks I should see a therapist about the trauma of almost losing Janie. That's a good idea. Trauma can make people do crazy things. She looked at me sharply, but I kept my expression neutral. I'm going to bed, she said. We'll talk tomorrow. Sure thing, honey. The next morning, my phone rang at 6 a.m. unknown number. Is this Jason Fairburn? The voice was angry, aggressive. Who's asking? Scott Williams. We need to talk. I don't think we do. You destroyed my car, you psycho. I've got security footage. I laughed. Scott, buddy, I have no idea what you're talking about. But if someone messed with your car, maybe you should think about why. Stay away from me and Laura, or I'm calling the cops. Laura's my wife, Scott. You're the one who should stay away. I hung up and immediately called my lawyer. Dave, I need to file for divorce, and I need to know how to protect myself from false accusations. Jason, what's going on? I told him everything. The drugs, the affair, the frame job. Dave listened without interrupting, taking notes. This is serious, he said finally. If they're willing to drug a child to make you look bad, they're playing for keeps. What do I do? Document everything. Don't confront them directly. And Jason, start moving money. If Laura's planning to take you down, she's probably already talked to her own lawyer. He was right. When I checked our accounts that afternoon, Laura had transferred $30,000 to a personal account I didn't know existed. I transferred the rest to a new account at a different bank, leaving just enough to cover the mortgage and utilities. Two could play this game. That evening, Laura came home early, her face flushed with anger. Scott's car was vandalized last night, she said, watching my reaction carefully. That's terrible. Did he call the police? He thinks you did it. Why would he think that? I don't even know the guy. Laura's eyes narrowed. Don't lie to me, Jason. I know you've been following us. Following who? Me and Scott. He's been helping me through this difficult time. Helping you how, exactly? He's a friend. A good friend who actually listens to me, instead of making me feel like I'm crazy. Laura, are you having an affair? The question hung in the air between us. For a moment, I thought she might tell the truth. Instead, she laughed. You're paranoid, Jason. Just like I told the police yesterday. Maybe you should see someone about that. Maybe I should. She went upstairs to shower, and I heard her on the phone, voice low and urgent, probably warning Scott that I was getting suspicious. After she went to bed, I sat in my home office and planned my next move. They wanted to destroy me? Fine. But they'd underestimated who they were dealing with. I wasn't just some blue-collar guy they could steamroll. I was a project manager who solved problems for a living, and Laura and Scott had just become my biggest problem. I opened my laptop and started typing. By morning, I'd have everything I needed to turn their plan against them. They wanted a war? They were about to get one. The boxing gym hadn't changed in 20 years. Same cracked mirrors, same smell of sweat and determination, same old-timers who remembered when I could actually throw a decent punch. Reggie Martinez owned the place now. We'd grown up together, stayed friends even after I went to college, and he went to prison for 6 months on an assault charge that should have been self-defense. "You look like hell," he said when I walked in Tuesday afternoon. "Feel worse." I told him everything while hitting the heavy bag. The affair, the drugged lunch, Laura's plan to destroy me in court. "Damn, brother. Your wife's got balls. I'll give her that." "What do I do, Reggie?" "You already know. Question is whether you got the stomach for it." He was right. I'd been playing defense, trying to be the good guy, hoping this could be resolved like civilized adults. But they'd tried to frame me for child abuse. Gloves were off. "I need information," I said. "About Scott Williams." Reggie grinned. "Now you're talking my language." It took him 2 days to get what I needed. Scott had a gambling problem, owed money to some very unfriendly people. His pharmaceutical sales job was hanging by a thread after complaints about his aggressive tactics with doctors. Most importantly, he was still married. His divorce wasn't final, and his wife Tina had no idea he was seeing Laura. I called Tina Williams on Thursday morning. "Mrs. Williams, my name is Jason Fairburn. I think we need to talk about your husband and my wife." We met at a coffee shop downtown. Tina was younger than Laura, probably mid-30s, with tired eyes and the worn look of someone who'd been fighting a losing battle for too long. "I knew he was seeing someone," she said after I showed her the photos. "But I didn't know she was married with kids. Scott and Laura tried to drug my 10-year-old daughter to make me look like an unfit father." Tina's face went white. "What?" I showed her the screenshots of their text messages, explained the whole plan. "That sick bastard," she whispered. "He's around my kids every other weekend." "Tina, I need your help. They're planning to destroy me in court, and I can't let that happen." "What do you need?" "Scott's been using your joint credit cards to pay for hotels and dinners with Laura. I need copies of those statements." "Done." "What else? Does he keep drugs at your house? For his sales job?" "He's got samples in the garage, sleeping pills, anxiety medication, stuff like that." Her eyes widened. "Oh my God. You think he got the roofies from his work samples?" I'd bet money on it. Tina was quiet for a long moment. Then, "I'll help you bury him." Both of them. That weekend, Laura announced she was going to a work conference in San Antonio. She'd be gone until Monday. I knew she was really going to some romantic getaway with Scott, probably paid for with money from our joint account. While she was gone, I put my plan into action. First, I called Laura's boss, Jennifer Martinez. "Jennifer, this is Jason Fairburn, Laura's husband. I need to report some concerning behavior." "Is everything okay?" "Laura's been having an affair with a pharmaceutical sales rep named Scott Williams. They've been using company time and resources for personal meetings. I have documentation if you need it." "Jason, that's a serious accusation." "I know. I wouldn't make it lightly." I emailed her the hotel receipts, the credit card statements showing lunches and dinners during work hours, photos of Laura and Scott together during times when she was supposed to be in the office. Jennifer called me back an hour later. "We'll be conducting an investigation starting Monday." Next, I called Scott's boss at the pharmaceutical company. "Mr. Peterson, I need to report one of your sales reps for illegal distribution of controlled substances." That conversation was even more satisfying. Finally, I created a fake Facebook account and sent friend requests to all of Laura's coworkers, our neighbors, the parents from the girls' schools. Then I posted a carefully worded message. Has anyone else noticed that some people in our community don't seem to value family anymore? It's sad when parents put their own selfish desires ahead of their children's safety and well-being. I pray for families going through difficult times due to adultery and deception. I tagged it with our neighborhood's hashtag and sat back to watch the comments roll in. By Sunday night, the post had been shared 47 times. The comments were brutal. Some people have no shame. I feel sorry for the children. Adultery destroys families. Praying for healing. Wonder who this is about? Mrs. Henderson from 2 houses down had already figured it out. Isn't that Laura Fairburn's car I've been seeing at those condos downtown? Laura came home Monday morning to find her world on fire. Her boss called at 8 a.m., asking her to come in for a meeting with HR. Scott's company suspended him pending investigation. Our neighbors were whispering and pointing when she got the mail. And I was sitting at the kitchen table drinking coffee, reading the newspaper like nothing had happened. What did you do? She demanded. What do you mean? Don't play dumb with me, Jason. Jennifer wants to see me about inappropriate workplace behavior. Scott's been suspended. The whole neighborhood is talking about us. Maybe you should have thought about that before you started sleeping around. She stared at me, probably seeing me clearly for the first time in months. The doormat husband was gone. You can't prove anything. I pulled out my phone and showed her the screenshots of her own text messages. Want to bet? Laura sank into a chair, the fight going out of her all at once. Jason, we can work this out. Go to counseling, start over. You tried to drug our daughter to frame me for child abuse. That wasn't my idea. Scott said it would just make her sleepy, that we needed something dramatic to show you were unstable. So you went along with it. I was scared. You'd been acting strange, jealous, paranoid, because you were cheating on me. I know, okay? I made mistakes. But we can fix this. I looked at the woman I'd loved for 15 years, the woman who'd carried my children, shared my dreams, promised to love me in sickness and in health. No, Laura, we can't. She started crying then, big dramatic sobs that might have worked on me 6 months ago. Now they just made me angry. Pack your things, I said quietly. You've got until tonight. You can't kick me out of my own house. Watch me. I'd already talked to Dave, my lawyer. Since Laura had moved money without my knowledge and was using marital funds to support her affair, I had grounds to change the locks and freeze the accounts. Jason, please, think about the girls. I am thinking about them. That's why I'm getting them away from a mother who would drug a 10-year-old to win a custody battle. Laura's face went pale. You wouldn't. Try me. She packed 2 suitcases and left without another word. I called the girls into the living room that evening and told them the truth. Age-appropriate versions, but the truth. Your mother and I are getting divorced. She's been seeing another man and she's made some choices that hurt our family. Beth exploded, as expected. You're lying. Mom would never cheat. I'm sorry, sweetheart, but it's true. I hate you, she screamed, running upstairs and slamming her door. Janie was quieter. Is Mom coming back? Not to live here, no, but she's still your mother. You'll still see her. Will you be okay, Daddy? That question almost broke me. My 10-year-old was worried about me while her world fell apart. I'll be fine, baby girl. We all will. But as I tucked her into bed that night, I wondered if that was true. The war was just getting started. Laura's counterattack came faster than I expected. Tuesday morning, Child Protective Services showed up at my door. Mr. Fairburn? We've received a report that you've been emotionally abusing your children and making threats against your estranged wife. The caseworker was a tired-looking woman in her 50s who'd probably seen every kind of family dysfunction imaginable. That's not true, I said, inviting her in. But I'm not surprised someone called you. I showed her the text messages between Laura and Scott, explained about the drugged lunch, provided documentation of everything that had happened. This is quite a mess, she said, after reviewing everything. We'll need to interview the children separately. Beth told the caseworker I was mean and angry all the time, and that she wanted to live with her mother. Janie said I was sad, but not mean, and that she felt safe with me. Mr. Fairburn, I'm not finding evidence of abuse, the caseworker told me before leaving, but I'd recommend family counseling for everyone involved. This situation is traumatic for the children. An hour after CPS left, my lawyer called. Jason, Laura's filed an emergency custody motion. She's claiming you're unstable and dangerous. Based on what? She says you've been stalking her, vandalizing property, and turning the children against her. All things she and Scott did first. I know, but we need to be prepared. The hearing's Thursday morning. Wednesday night I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about Beth's angry words, Janie's worried face, the possibility that I might lose my daughters because of Laura's lies. At 2 a.m. I got a text from an unknown number. Drop the divorce or things will get worse for you. I screenshot it and forwarded it to Dave. Thursday morning, the courthouse was like something out of a nightmare. Laura sat with her lawyer looking professional and composed. She'd hired Margaret Chen, the most expensive divorce attorney in town. I had Dave, who was good but not flashy. Your Honor, Margaret began, my client fears for her safety and the safety of her children. Mr. Fairburn has been engaging in stalking behavior, property destruction, and emotional manipulation. She painted me as an unstable, controlling husband who couldn't handle his wife's independence. He's turned the children against their mother, isolated her from friends and family, and made threats against her and her friend, Mr. Williams. When it was Dave's turn, he methodically destroyed their narrative. Your Honor, Mrs. Fairburn and her boyfriend attempted to drug the party's 10-year-old daughter with Rohypnol in order to frame Mr. Fairburn for child abuse. He presented the text messages, the police report, the hospital records. Furthermore, Mrs. Fairburn has been stealing marital funds to support her affair, lying to her employer about her whereabouts, and using company resources for personal purposes. The judge, an older man with no patience for games, listened to everything with a stone face. This is one of the most disturbing cases I've seen in 30 years on the bench, he said finally. Mrs. Fairburn, the evidence suggests you conspired to drug your own child to gain advantage in a custody dispute. That's not just morally reprehensible, it's criminal. Laura started crying, but the judge wasn't moved. Mr. Fairburn will retain primary custody. Mrs. Fairburn, you'll have supervised visitation until you complete a psychological evaluation and parenting classes. Laura's face went white. Your Honor, please. We're done here. Outside the courthouse, Laura confronted me in the parking lot. You've destroyed everything, she said, her composed mask finally slipping. My job, my reputation, my relationship with my daughters. You did that yourself when you chose Scott over your family. Scott loves me. He sees me as more than just a wife and mother. He makes me feel alive again. Scott's using you, Laura. He's married, he's broke, and he's desperate. You're just convenient. That's not true. Call him right now. Tell him you need a place to stay. She pulled out her phone, dialed Scott's number. I could hear it ringing. Scott? It's me. The hearing didn't go well. I couldn't hear his exact words, but I could hear the tone. Cold, dismissive, final. Laura's face crumbled as she listened. But you said you loved me. You said we'd be together. More cold words from Scott. Please don't do this. I gave up everything for you. The line went dead. Laura stared at her phone like she couldn't believe what had just happened. He dumped you, I said. It wasn't a question. He's just scared. The legal trouble, the custody battle. Laura, stop. It's over. Scott got what he wanted from you. And now he's moving on. She started crying again, real tears this time instead of the manipulative ones. What am I going to do? I lost my job, the girls hate me, I have nowhere to go. For a moment, I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. You should have thought about that before you tried to drug our daughter. I got in my truck and drove away, leaving her standing in the courthouse parking lot. That evening, I sat the girls down for another difficult conversation. The judge decided you'll be living with me full time, I told them. Your mother can visit, but only with supervision for now. Beth was furious. This is all your fault. You ruined everything. Beth, your mother made choices that hurt our family. I'm trying to protect you and your sister. I don't need protection from Mom. She tried to drug Janie to make me look bad in court. That's a lie. I showed her the text messages. Beth read them twice, her face getting paler each time. Mom really wrote this. Yes. She was going to hurt Janie to get back at you? Yes. Beth ran upstairs without another word. Janie climbed into my lap. Are you okay, Daddy? I'm getting there, sweetheart. I'm glad I'm staying with you. Me too, baby girl. That night, after the girls were asleep, I sat in my living room and took inventory. My marriage was over. My wife had betrayed me in the worst possible way. My teenage daughter hated me. I'd probably be paying lawyers for the next year, but my daughters were safe. Laura's plan had failed, and Scott Williams was about to learn that actions have consequences. I pulled out my phone and started making calls. The war wasn't over yet. Scott Williams made his first mistake by threatening me over text. His second mistake was underestimating how far I'd go to protect my family. His third mistake was showing up at my house Friday night, drunk and angry. I was helping Janie with homework when the doorbell rang. Through the peephole, I saw Scott swaying on my front porch, his face red with alcohol and rage. Girls, go upstairs, I said calmly. Dad, who is it? Beth asked. Just go upstairs and stay there. I opened the door but kept the security chain attached. What do you want, Scott? You ruined my life, you bastard. I lost my job, my wife filed for divorce, and Laura won't even talk to me anymore. Sounds like a personal problem. Let me in. We're going to settle this like men. We're not going to do anything. You're drunk, you're trespassing, and I'm about to call the police. Scott slammed his fist against the door. You think you're so smart, don't you? Well, I've got news for you. This isn't over. I pulled out my phone and started recording. Scott, you're making threats against me and my family on camera while intoxicated on my property. I don't care about your camera. You should, because I'm sending this video to the police, your probation officer, and your ex-wife's lawyer. Scott's face went white. What probation officer? The one assigned to you after your DUI last year. The one who specifically told you to avoid alcohol and confrontational situations. I'd done my homework. Scott's pharmaceutical job wasn't just hanging by a thread because of customer complaints. He'd been arrested for drunk driving 8 months ago and was still on probation. You're bluffing. Am I? Want to find out what happens when your probation gets revoked? Scott backed away from the door, some of the fight going out of him. This isn't over, he mumbled. Yes, it is. I watched him stumble back to his car, then called 911. I'd like to report a drunk driver, I said, giving them Scott's license plate number and description. 20 minutes later, Dave called me back. Scott Williams was just arrested for DUI and violation of probation. He's looking at 6 months in county jail. Good. Jason, there's something else. Tina Williams wants to meet with you tomorrow. She says she has information about Laura. Saturday morning, I met Tina at the same coffee shop where we'd first talked. She looked different, stronger, more confident. Scott's in jail, she said without preamble. I heard. Good. He deserves worse. She slid a manila envelope across the table. I found these in his things. The envelope contained printed emails between Scott and Laura going back 8 months. Not just planning the affair, but planning my destruction in detail. They'd researched my work schedule, my habits, my friends. Laura had been feeding Scott information about my finances, my relationship with the girls, my weaknesses. They were going to claim you were abusive, Tina said. Laura was supposed to show up to work with fake bruises, say you'd hit her. My blood ran cold. When? Next week, after the custody hearing. They figured if the drug thing didn't work, they'd escalate. I stared at the emails, seeing my wife's betrayal laid out in black and white. She hadn't just cheated on me. She'd planned to destroy me completely. There's more, Tina said. Scott's been skimming drug samples from work for months, not just the roofies, painkillers, anxiety medication, stimulants. He's been selling them. To who? College kids, mostly. Laura helped him find customers through her HR contacts. Now I understood why Laura had been so confident, so aggressive. She and Scott weren't just having an affair. They were business partners in a drug operation. Tina, we need to call the police. Already did. Detective Morrison is expecting your call. That afternoon, I sat in the police station with Detective Morrison, a no-nonsense woman in her 40s who'd seen enough domestic cases to recognize the real bad guys. Mr. Fairburn, this is bigger than we initially thought, she said, after reviewing all the evidence. Your wife and Mr. Williams were running a prescription drug ring. The attempt to drug your daughter was just part of a larger pattern of illegal activity. What happens now? We're issuing warrants for both of them. Drug distribution, conspiracy, child endangerment, fraud. They're looking at serious prison time. Laura was arrested Monday morning at Megan's house, where she'd been staying since the custody hearing. The local news picked up the story. HR executive arrested in prescription drug ring. I didn't feel victorious watching her perp walk on the evening news. I felt sad for the woman she used to be, before greed and selfishness turned her into someone I didn't recognize. Beth watched the news with me, her face pale and shocked. Mom's really going to prison? Probably, sweetheart. I'm sorry I didn't believe you. You were protecting your mother. That's not wrong, even when she was. What's going to happen to us? We're going to be okay, all 3 of us. And we were. The divorce was finalized 3 months later. Laura pled guilty to avoid a longer sentence and got 2 years in minimum security prison. Scott got 5 years for being the ringleader. I sold the house, too many bad memories, and bought a smaller place closer to the girls' schools. Beth started therapy and slowly began to trust me again. Janie adjusted quickly, the way kids do when they feel safe. 6 months after Laura's arrest, I was coaching Janie's soccer team when my phone rang. Unknown number. Jason? It's Laura. I stepped away from the field. What do you want? I'm getting out early for good behavior. 6 months from now. Congratulations. I want to see the girls. Talk to your lawyer. Jason, please. I know I messed up, but they're my daughters too. You tried to drug one of them to frame me for child abuse. You sold drugs to college kids. You planned to fake domestic violence to destroy me. I was desperate. Scott convinced me it was the only way to get free, to start over. You were free to leave any time, Laura. You chose to stay and destroy our family instead. I made mistakes. You made choices, and choices have consequences. I hung up and went back to coaching soccer. That evening, as I tucked Janie into bed, she asked the question I'd been dreading. Daddy, when Mom gets out of prison, do we have to live with her? No, sweetheart. You'll live with me. You might visit her sometimes if you want to, but this is your home. Good. I like it here. Me too, baby girl. Later that night, I sat on my back porch with a beer, looking up at the stars. 2 years ago, I'd been a married man with a stable life and a wife I trusted. Now I was a single father with trust issues and a lot of baggage. But my daughters were safe. They were loved. They were learning that actions have consequences, and that sometimes good people have to fight back against bad ones. I'd won the war, but the cost had been everything I thought I wanted. Still, as I finished my beer and headed inside to check on my sleeping girls, I knew I'd made the right choices. Family really does mean everything, even when it's smaller than you planned.